Here in this video, we are going to get into all of your Tesla breaking news that you need to know today. We are also going to take a look at the short position in Tesla and the option activity, in which does that suggest we're going higher or lower from here? We also have some critical things to be watching for in the week ahead, and I want to get you guys caught up to speed. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I would like to start with is probably the most basic of all, but probably the most important to understand. You don't have to be a technical analyst to understand that Tesla is coiling higher into a breakout. It's statistically likely at this point Tesla stock will break out to the upside. Now, we have some catalysts this week that could really reshape our markets, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here in this video more extensively in the next video, so stay tuned to the channel for that one, coming out at 8:30 p.m. tonight, Eastern Standard Time. But it really doesn't take rocket science to figure out Tesla has been trending higher, hitting higher lows most days since you had this gap up of about 4.22% on November 13th. It's almost a month later. You've, relatively speaking, traded sideways, but trending higher. This is called coiling because it looks like coils, and the general direction is to the upside. So about 75% of the time or so, you tend to get another gap up to the upside. What I will point out as well, Tesla's stock is above the 100-day moving average. Not by much, by about 40 odd cents or so, but it's still a close above the 100-day moving average. We want to see the start of the week, especially Monday. We're not going to have a lot of economic data. We're not really going to have much that is going to move the broader markets. We want to see how Tesla stock trades. If we can continue to go higher, I don't care if we're flat tomorrow. I don't care if we're slightly higher. As long as we can stay above that 100-day moving average, that's great. And that's the number one thing you should be watching for coming on Monday if you are bullish on Tesla in the near term, and especially if you have trades currently positioned for an upside move in Tesla stock. Starting on Monday, you are going to get a 10-year bond auction. That could move our markets depending how the rate comes out. It's basically telling you supply and demand of bonds, and that has implications for rate cuts, obviously where the 10-year treasury will move on Monday as well. You are also going to get the consumer inflation expectations report for November. You're actually expecting that will increase from 3.6% to 3.8%. What we seen on Friday was the University of Michigan's consumer sentiment report showed 1 year and 5 year inflation expectations plummeted, just fell off a cliff. That's great because we were approaching a 25-year high for both of those. So you're probably going to get some weak inflation expectations coming Monday morning around lunchtime, 11 o'clock in the morning. That could be positive for our markets. But then on Tuesday, we're going to get our CPI report. And across the board, you're expecting CPI is going to make a slight up move from last month. I'm not in that camp, but if that happens, that's not going to be great because we're seeing the economy hold up right now. That's good. But we need to see inflation continue to move lower. If inflation starts to rise, that's going to be bad news for our markets. On Wednesday, you're going to have the biggest data of all, and that is the Fed. But before the Fed at 8:30 in the morning, you're going to get PPI. You're expecting a 0.1% month-over-month PPI reading. PPI is producer price index. Think of it as producer price inflation. CPI, consumer price index, consumer price inflation. If you get a rise in PPI, if it costs more for a company, let's say to make a phone or a TV or a computer, whatever you're watching this on, they might pass some of that cost on to consumers. So PPI is more forward-looking than anything else. So watch that, but I doubt markets are going to care all too much about it. Coming later in the day at 2 p.m., you're going to get a summary of economic projections. If you guys don't remember what the last summary of economic projections told us, I'll tell you again. It told us we could expect 1 to 2 rate cuts in 2024. That was the average consensus from the Fed. Well, let me tell you right now, markets are pricing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rate cuts now for 2024. The big question is, does the Fed confirm this or do they not? That's what we want to be watching for. Do they still think we're only going to get 1 or 2 rate cuts? That's going to be big coming this week. And I think we need to elaborate on that more, and we will in the next video. But at 2:30 p.m., you're going to have the Fed press conference, and they are going to basically go over the summary of economic projections. There's going to be a lot of questions on that coming on the conference itself. Now, on Thursday, you're going to have a lot of data as well. Retail sales. You're also going to get export prices and import prices. You're expecting negative numbers for all 3 of these. This, in a nutshell, is a majority of your GDP report. So your GDP estimates per the Atlanta Fed are 1.2% for Q4. Depending on how those numbers come out Thursday, you're either going to get a large move higher or large move lower for average consensus GDP for Q4. That's my expectation. We might not move if the numbers come in line with estimates, but that's going to give us a little bit more clarity on how Q4 is going for the economy. Now, that's pretty much it on Thursday. On Friday, you are going to get your S&P Global Manufacturing PMI, Service PMI, and Composite PMI. I expect by this point, the markets are either going to be ripping higher or moving substantially lower, especially based on what the Fed says Wednesday, because that's the big wild card for this week. We just don't know if the Fed's going to confirm what the markets are pricing in or try to push back on that. Now, on Friday, you're also going to get manufacturing production month over month, year over year, S&P Global Composite PMI, manufacturing PMI, services PMI, lots of secondary data, if you will. Your hard data is CPI on Tuesday, the Fed on Wednesday, and retail sales on Thursday. Those are your 3 big data reports. But these smaller ones can also have an effect on the markets, but typically a small effect. Let's go ahead and kick off your Tesla stock news. And this is very exciting, and it's happening faster than I expected. Remember, we talked about this a couple of months ago where Tesla was opening the first supercharger location that also had a restaurant that was going to play movies. Well, Tesla's restaurant on Santa Monica Boulevard is inching closer to reality. You can literally see the framing for this site that is already in place. This was only a couple months prior, maybe 2 months prior, that we were talking about this in general. This is literally a standing advertisement for Tesla on a massive scale, and could be the start of something great to come for Tesla. If Tesla really starts to roll these out to other places and locations, if this one is successful, yeah, that's going to be a big deal for the Tesla brand. Sawyer Merritt says about 150 people have now DM'd him with proof that Tesla has invited them to configure and order a Foundation Series Cybertruck. And I imagine a vast majority of people that were also invited to configure their Cybertrucks probably did not reach out to Sawyer Merritt. So if 150 people did, then imagine the number that did not. You could be pushing 500 plus Cybertrucks that hopefully get delivered here in the near-term future. Sawyer was just DMing with a guy that got invited to configure a Foundation Series Cybertruck last night. Says he's selling his Ford F-150 Raptor R that he bought less than a month ago. The dealer charged him $9,000 over MSRP. Out the door, it was $130,000. He'll be replacing it with a Foundation Series Cyber Beast, a tri-motor, which should be delivered to him in the next couple of months. Gregor Truck is sharing a quote for the Cybertruck all-wheel drive. This is for insurance. $188.94 a month. That's a very good rate for insurance on a truck. I don't know if that's obviously going to be the case for the average Cybertruck in the average state, But if that's really the number that a lot of people are getting, that's super attractive. Could be lower than most Tesla car insurance. A professor of mechanical engineering, Pinchka Dong, on Tesla's Cybertruck says, quote, "This is more than 90% different. You really have to reinvent the process." Actually, they did. They, as in Tesla, did a great job putting this together in such a short period of time. CNBC has released a new 15-minute long video on why the Tesla Cybertruck is so hard to manufacture. The top comment under this video says, quote, "We have one of them, a Cybertruck, at the Tesla store near our house now. It looks way better than expected in person. The proportions don't look right in photos, but when you're right next to it, it looks slick. Changed my opinion on it for the better." The IRS has now officially listed the Cybertruck all-wheel drive as eligible for the full $7,500 EV tax credit. What's weird is that they also say the $100,000 Cyber Beast is eligible, but I'm guessing what they mean is if the price in the future drops below $80K, then it will qualify. Starting on January 1st, 2024, you'll be able to get a Cybertruck all-wheel drive in Colorado for $67,490 due to Colorado's new $5,000 innovative truck credit, which goes live on January 1st. Talk about perfect timing. Bloomberg says EVs can compete with combustion vehicles on total cost of ownership. This says that they assume a price of $2.95 per gallon for internal combustion engines. They also consider or assume 14 cents per kilowatt hour for BEVs. BEV efficiencies vary from 3.3 to 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Get this. ICE miles per gallon vary from 26 to 27 miles per gallon. I don't know of really any vehicle that gets 26 to 27 miles per gallon, like real world miles per gallon. Maybe, some small vehicles out there, maybe like motorcycles, but the average truck does not. The average SUV does not. And those are the most popular vehicles in the US. So if you're really doing an accurate representation of the average owner of vehicles, at least in the US, well, I mean, EVs are way cheaper because you're using a super high miles per gallon ratio here. And check this out. There are more than 29 million passenger EVs out on the road. Cumulative all-time sales of zero-emission passenger vehicles reached around 29 million in 2023, up from just 6.8 million at the end of 2020. It really makes you question financial media that says that EV growth is slowing down. From the look of this chart, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Also, according to Bloomberg, Biden's Inflation Reduction Act has already attracted over $100 billion of EV investment in North America. The main really part of this, the main bulk of this, is battery manufacturing at $72.4 billion. Although we've seen a lot of companies recently, including Ford, that no longer plans to build their $3 billion battery factory in Michigan, my home state. And you've seen other companies announce similar things, like GM said they're not going to be investing nearly as much as they previously expected. So these numbers might be lower, but you get the idea. There's a lot of investment right now in EV vehicles. Bloomberg also points out that several automakers are at or above 20% EV sales globally. Volvo, 27%, BMW at 23%, Mercedes-Benz at 20%, Stellantis at 10%, and Volkswagen at 9%. Serena Williams and her husband, Alexis Ohanian, were spotted leaving a party in Miami on Friday in their new, get it, Tesla Cybertruck. Sawyer Merritt says out of the 200 people that have DM'd him so far with proof that Tesla invited them to configure a Foundation Series Cybertruck, about 60% of those have decided to actually go through and order it. Seems like an even split between all-wheel drive and Cyber Beast Foundation. The best-selling new energy vehicle in China in November was the Model Y. Nearly 50,000 units were sold, a clear route to the best-selling car this year. Almost all of the right-handle vehicles at the port near the Shanghai factory have been exported, and you can see a massive amount of Teslas, well, that are making their way to customers right now, leaving the Shanghai port. A massive project that obviously took hours from sunup to literally sundown. Tesla's Model 3 Highland in Europe for red, stealth, and blue paint, estimated delivery days have increased slightly. Currently at 8 to 12 weeks, previously we were at 2 to 6 weeks. So this is showing you we're probably seeing some good demand for Tesla. The environmental bonuses for Tesla in Germany will be reduced in amounts starting January 2024. Customers who will buy Tesla will be able to enjoy more funding by the end of this year. From January 1st, the federal bonus will be reduced to 3,000 euros from 4,500 euros, and the funding limit for the base model will also be reduced from 65,000 euros to 45,000 euros. Hong Kong has reported 673 Tesla sales and 13.3% market share for November. Although year to date this is down 21%, not a big deal. We really had a slowdown of Model 3 sales, and they're starting to kick back up again. That's up almost 3,000% from last month. Option activity over the past week was slightly more bullish than bearish. You had a positive order value of 54%. You had 4,867 orders, totaling $10.51 billion. Now, if we look at the week ahead, for December 15th, you had volume on the call side of 58.26% on Friday, volume on the put side of 41.74% on Friday. If you look at the open interest, slightly more puts than calls. Put open interest at 53.56% and call open interest at 46.44%. The dollar amount that is currently sold short is $21.68 billion, with the short interest of free float at 3.29% short. Tesla continues to remain, and probably will for a very long time, the most heavily shorted stock on our markets. Whether it is a fundamentally good time to short Tesla or a fundamentally bad time to short Tesla, as I would argue right now is, you continue to see shorts in this egotistical battle with Elon Musk. And that only ends one way. Very bad for the shorts, especially if this week confirms inflation continues to fall, the Fed is now becoming even more dovish, and the economy is holding up. That is your perfect outcome. That's exactly what you want to see if you're a Tesla bull. We did recently get a new AI investor sentiment survey, which is also very encouraging. The amount of bulls are at 47.3%, down slightly from the prior week at 48.8%. The level of neutral investors fell quite a bit from 31.7% to 25.3%, but the amount of bears increased substantially from 19.6% to 27.4%. That's good news. You don't want to see so many bulls and no bears. You want to see things somewhat split. And now you're in a more normal range for the bears. Global inventory numbers for the Model Y seem to be falling off sharply today and over the past 2 days or so. Model 3 inventory is falling a little bit, and your Model S and your Model X inventory just continues to fall, which really makes you wonder because it seems like demand is good right now for the Model S and the Model X, but we will see once we get closer to actually getting our delivery numbers. Tesla's Google Trends data continues to show the Cybertruck is almost at 100 still. This would be about 3 weeks now, from November 26th until December 9th. Well, you've been at 100% search trend activity for the Cybertruck, which is great news. The Model 3 is actually trending higher, and the Model Y search trend activity is basically staying flat. The percentage of stocks above their 50-day moving average is at 74.24%, which is really staying sideways over the last couple of days or so, but you are seeing a broader participation in our markets, especially with the recent outperformance of small and mid-cap stocks. I expect this will likely continue. In the week ahead, you don't have much for earnings, but we do have a couple notable names, including Oracle Monday and after hours. Then you are going to get Adobe Wednesday and after hours, and Costco Thursday and after hours. You're also going to get Darden Restaurants on Friday pre-market. So these are names that could move their certain sectors. Oracle can move software. Adobe also will move software and some AI names. Costco will move some of your retailers, and Darden's will move your restaurants. But really, earnings season basically over at this point. And we don't have any other big earnings that will just move the broader markets. TLT recently has made quite the up move, and if this continues, well, it's going to show long duration treasuries. Their yields continue to fall, and that's probably what I would expect at this point. We did see TLT drop about 1% on Friday, so some of that upside momentum has definitely took a breather here, but that's actually good news if you want to see TLT continue to rise, which should be pretty much each and every single one of you. Oil on Friday was up 2.20% as the economy just looks to be doing better than what Wall Street expected. Oil tends to trade based on how good the economy is doing. If the economy is doing better, there's more implied demand that will come to oil over, the next coming months and years. If you go into a recession, then oil, you would expect oil to fall, as we would perceivably have less demand. The dollar was up about 1/3 of 1%. This is one you want to see continue to fall. We have been falling over the past couple of weeks. That has really helped fuel some of this October-November rally that we have seen. And if the dollar continues to fall, that's going to be great news. A lot of that will come down to the CPI report and the Fed Tuesday and on Wednesday. And this is definitely something you want to be watching for. Every day the dollar is down, that is more literal dollars that Tesla will receive when they convert Chinese yuan or the euro back to US dollars to report earnings. So long story short, the lower the dollar goes, the better it is for Tesla. Gold was down 1.32% on Friday as well. It looks obvious to me this recent rise in gold that I was a little bit concerned about was due to some recession fears. Seems like ever since we got the data on Friday and we got some data in the beginning of last week that suggested we were not heading into a recession, well, gold seems to finally be rolling over. This looks like a great sign, and maybe it wasn't a fear move after all, necessarily saying something was going wrong under the surface, but maybe just outright recession fears that don't look like they're materializing. These are all things you want to watch for in the week ahead. Now, that is going to do it for this video, but in the next video, we're going to break down my expectations a little bit more for all of the data next week and a price prediction on where I think Tesla stock will go. You do not want to miss that video. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you made it to the end of this video. If you guys want to come trade with us live in real time as well, link down below in the description of this video. We are putting our money where our mouth is at. If we are right, we're going to make a lot of money in this upcoming week. If we're wrong, well, hey, we might lose a lot of money, but we still have our long-term portfolios. Nonetheless, if you guys want to come join us, no matter what your skill level is in options and crypto and trading in general, there's a spot for you. We'll welcome you with open arms. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Michael Tyler. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.